All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 24 of our live series. We obviously haven't been live since, I believe, the announcement of the college football playoff participants and all the bowl games and everything. So it's been about 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
But like I said, we are back kind of reacting to both of these games. We already put out the Alabama-Michigan video. We have the Texas-Washington video coming out tomorrow for you guys, and we just kind of want to give our immediate reactions to both games. Both games ended up being really good.
Yeah, bro, you tried to call this Texas game about 10 minutes in.
So no, it was in the third quarter when they started they're up like 10 or 11 and they got the ball back. I thought they're gonna end up taking off on them. Texas kind of stormed back late. For a second, it was giving me Alabama-Auburn vibes.
I thought Texas was gonna win.
Yeah, that if Texas was able to pull that game off, that would have been absolutely crazy. But good game nonetheless. We have a monster matchup in the championship game. Very excited to see it. Obviously, I think a lot of people were hoping for the Alabama-Texas rematch. I think that was probably the most wanted game. But I think, you got the two undefeated teams.
That's what I like. I like the fact that it is the two undefeated teams that will be playing in the national championship.
Yeah. But what was your takeaway from the first game, the Alabama-Michigan? I know we did a video already, but a lot of the people who are going to be in the live haven't seen it yet. So what was kind of your takeaway from that?
Yeah, that Michigan is going to be exactly who they are. Especially as we kind of look at the matchup against Washington. They're going to be tough in the trenches. They are going to run the ball, right? JJ can make some plays, but that's not the main motivation, the main priority of their offense. They're going to play tough in the trenches. They're going to get after you with their defense. Now, I will say, and I know we'll get obviously into it later, and we'll probably talk about it all week. This is a very interesting matchup because I think beat the Fuskies.
Huskies.
But I think this game could possibly play to Michigan's strengths. I think Washington's defense isn't great. So can they play in the trenches with Michigan? We'll see.
Yeah, I am very excited for this matchup. Like we talked about earlier, it's going to be the number one defense against the number one offense. So something has got to budge. I know I was talking in either our live show or a video before, and I said in all 8 or 9 playoffs we've always had a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a blowout in the championship game. The reason why,
if it was a blowout, if I said right now with some level of certainty this game is a blowout, who do you think?
When I say blowout, 17 points or more, that's my definition.
Yeah, okay. Let's just say that we were able to get absolutely as a fact that the game is won by 17 points or more. Who do you think wins?
I feel like you have to say Michigan, but I also don't. The reason why I don't think it can happen is, for one, I don't think Michigan is going to be able to score 31 points and hold Washington to 14 or less. And I also don't think Washington is going to be able to just score 50 on Michigan and not stop them.
My concern is Washington's biggest weakness is their secondary. And yeah, Neeks, is that Neeks white people?
Nico, what is that? That's YouTube, but okay.
Oh, YouTube. Oh, got it.
That is crazy.
Well, they be putting that like white.
Come on, let's go. Keep talking.
You've seen that before?
Yeah, keep going. Let's go.
Okay.
Back on.
No, I forgot what I was talking about. We're talking about Nico being white. But their biggest weakness is their secondary. I don't think that Michigan is the team to really take advantage of the fact that that Washington has a horrible secondary. I think where we're going to have to see if Washington is good is, can you play smash mouth football, or can you at least stop Michigan from playing smash mouth football?
Yeah, and we saw Dylan Johnson get hurt in the last play.
And that's concerning.
That's going to be big if he can't go next week, or even if he is kind of hobbled in that game. It's a
and
big part of their offense.
Based on the way he hobbled off, it looks like I don't suspect it. I'm not a doctor, and I am merely taking or making a observation. But based off the way he hobbled off and how in pain he looked, I would be surprised if he's able to play in the national championship. Now, I also say, a lot of people push through whatever, especially when they know last game of the season, only one game. But I'd be surprised if he's able to play.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. My takeaways from kind of the Washington Texas game was how well they protected Penix. We talked about their Texas's defensive line. He was still able to have a routine game that he's had all year, 400 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, he's thrown for 4 or 5 touchdowns normally, but 400 plus yards on, about 75% completion percentage, give or take. And that's against, a somewhat tough defense. Obviously, he's going to be going against Michigan, who has probably the best defense in college football. We saw what they did against Penn State multiple times on the goal line. So I'm just eager to see, like I said, what gives the offense of Washington or the defense of Michigan. But I also think we saw today that Michigan's offense is not bad either. They scored 2 times on back-to-back possessions, being the last possession in the fourth quarter and the first possession of overtime, and they made it look easy. And they drove like 75 yards under 4 minutes, and then the 2-play touchdown by Corum. And that's against Alabama's defense that is far superior than Washington's. So I would anticipate that this is probably going to be a higher scoring game. I would say maybe around the score we got for Washington, Texas. I don't think it's going to be the kind of game like the 27-20 game we got from Alabama and Michigan. I just don't think they're going to be able to put a bottle and put a cap on top of Penix and this Washington offense. But on the other side, I don't think Washington's going to be able to slow down that run game or McCarthy's kind of ability to move down the field either.
Yeah. The real question, and we kind of talked about it, right? I don't think Penix was sacked at all this game. I think he's only been sacked 11 times this season. But that's a big part of what Michigan does do. If they can get to Penix, if they can disrupt, because if you look at Washington, it's a lot of timing plays. It's a lot of quick passes. That's their whole offense. First read, ball's gone. If they can disrupt that, if Michigan can get in his face, apply some pressure, make him uncomfortable, I think they will be successful. I think they are more likely to be successful doing what it is they need to do than what I think Washington would need to do, which is spread them out. Penix really going for about 400 yards in the air.
Yeah. So to kind of talk about Nico's point, the 50 on Michigan
by 3 touchdowns. 50 on Michigan. That's a bet, or are you saying?
I think he's saying. Oh, he's either saying 50 on Michigan or 50 points. I'm assuming he's saying what you're saying. That makes more sense.
Okay, I thought he was making a bet for $50. I didn't. Yeah. I hope he's not saying they're going to win by 50.
No, I think he meant maybe 50, either 50 points on Michigan or $50 on Michigan. This conference hype is pure cap. Big Tens? Is that what you're responding to? I think he's saying Big Ten is cap. But
he said what? Washington beats Michigan by 3 touchdowns. I don't think anybody beats Michigan by 3 touchdowns. This Michigan team is legit. And like I said, what they do very well. I'm not going to say Washington isn't going to beat them. In fact, it's probably going to be my pick. But I would be shocked if they beat them by 3 touchdowns. In fact, that's something I'd be willing to put 50 on.
I don't think Washington wins by 3 touchdowns. Like I said, I did say heading into this playoff that there would be a blowout because we've had a blowout in 9 previous playoffs. I think that's going to come to an end because I don't think this game is going to end in a blowout.
I agree.
Now, I am going to favor Michigan in this game. I'm not going to do what I did against Alabama because I don't think Kalen DeBoer is the same coach as Nick Saban, and he's going to have a week to kind of scheme something up. Now, they do have the best offense, so I do think they're going to have an opportunity to kind of turn some heads. But I just think when it comes down to it, Washington is going to have to win the game on scoring multiple times on chunk plays. Because once they get into that red zone and the field is condensed, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, have the best red zone defense. Like I said, we saw it against Penn State. And I don't think, let's say they're on the 4 or 5 yard line. Washington's not just going to be able to pound the ball in. They're not in Ohio State. They're not at Penn State. They're not in Alabama. So, especially with Dylan Johnson being hurt heading into next week. Now, he may play, but I mean, by the looks of it, like I said, he's not going to be completely 100% based on what we saw. Obviously, more news will come out this week, but I just don't think Washington's going to be able to win if they're relying on red zone offense. They're going to have to win based off of, 30, 40, 50-yard touchdown passes or runs, because once that field gets condensed, Michigan is going to lock up.
But the thing is, I think Washington is uniquely positioned to be the one team that can do that, right? I think Penix throws a beautiful deep ball. They have a nice stable of receivers. If any team was going to be able to win the game off of chunk plays, big plays going up top, I think it is Washington. Again, not saying that they win. I this game, if I was betting with my heart, I'm going Washington. If I life on the line, I'd go Michigan.
Yeah, if I had to say what the line is going to be, Michigan's probably going to be like a touchdown favorite. Because
I think a touchdown's too much. I'll say like 4.
Well, so Texas was a 4-point favorite against Washington, and Michigan was a 3-point favorite against Alabama. So I'm assuming they're going to think that Michigan's a better team than Texas is. So I would say it's going to be more than 4, because Texas was a 4-point favorite in this game.
Yeah, but they had Texas ranked above Alabama, and Washington just
what I'm saying is, if you just look at just the odds from the Washington versus Texas game, Texas was a 4-point favorite, and now they're playing against Michigan, who's the number 1 team. It's going to have to be more than 4. I just don't see a situation where it's not more than 4, because they're playing against a better team now.
We'll see.
Nico said battle the undefeated. Yeah, I mean, I think this is
I like that.
The 2 best teams, I would say. Now, we talked a little bit about Georgia. I wish Georgia got in. Personally, I think they're a top 4 team, but
I don't. So my thing is, I do wish Florida State got in, and I've said that. I don't. If we just went truly by the 4 teams that I think were the best teams, I think we look at this completely different. But based off the merits of what their season upheld, I think Georgia rightfully was not in. They were not a conference champion. So you can't put them in over also a 1-loss team that did win their conference championship, right? We can't say that means something and put them in. Kudos to them. They still, and I'm not going to end their run. They've had a great run. They are having a great run. I am certain that Kirby Smart and that Georgia team is going to be back. They're bringing back Beck. They're bringing back, and we could talk. I'm sure we will talk deeply about Georgia. They're bringing back a number of players. They're going to be back, but I think they are deservedly not in this year. I think this is the game. This is the game we deserve. 2 Power 5 conference champions that are both undefeated. This is the game for the championship. And both of these teams will be in the Big Ten next year.
It's kind of weird to think like in a week from now, we're going to say that Michigan or Washington is the national champion.
Almost hard to sit here with people like you coming. Who is he talking about?
He's talking about Michael, because Michael said the thing about Alabama again. And then he said, this is OG Ohio State offense versus Michigan is going to be over in the first half. He's basically just counting what he says. And then he said, "You've been a clown all season. Let's be real at some point."
My goodness. Come on, Jack. Chill out, Jack.
Edgar said Washington needs to come out firing and have the offense stay hot, because we've seen how they are when they have highlights come back on the field. They struggle. Parity is back in college football. I agree. We talked a little bit about that with the NIL, because I've been so negative on it. And then I forget who I saw talk about it. It might have been Joel Klatt, but he was saying how with the NIL, all the talent is being spread out. We looked at Dylan Raiola go to
even more so NIL, I think, with the transfer portal, right? With the transfer portal being so prominent, the hard part is you may see I think the true blue bloods are still going to be the teams that get most of the 4 and 5 stars. What am I missing? What
he said. So I will say this, Michael. They lost in overtime.
Let me say this, but where I'm going to agree with Michael, I don't think Alabama should have been in. I think
so they're 4.5 point favorites. 4.5 point favorites.
Okay.
What do you see that on ESPN or what? Go ahead, Deb.
But what was I saying? But I think what you're going to see is teams are going to get those 4 and 5 stars, right? We talk about, I think Ohio State is up to like 18, 19 transfer out. And a lot of those players, again, 4 and 5 star guys are going to we've had players go to Kentucky, Cincinnati. So now you're getting top talent going to some of these smaller schools when they couldn't maybe break the too deep at some of these big schools. You're seeing it. I think Georgia is going to lose something like 20 people. I think Alabama, now that this has come out, is going to lose probably another 15, 20 people. And these guys are going to places where they can play right away. I think that's what's going to bring parity to college football, because you're going to have good talent. If I'm a team like a Kentucky, like a Vanderbilt, this is how Missouri makes a jump so quickly, I can go get players that may have been good enough to be at Georgia, but would have had to sit 2 or 3 years, may have been good enough to be at Ohio State, but would have had to sit 2 or 3 years. They get tired. They don't want to sit after the first year, and then they come to my team, and they're able to start right away.
So, Nico, I'm assuming you mean Florida State. And I do not think they would have done better against Michigan than Alabama.
No, so my thing isn't my argument for Florida State isn't a would they had done better or worse. It's simply they deserved the opportunity to play that game. Right? Anything else we do is hypothetical. I can't tell you that they would have done better or worse because I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they would have game planned better. Maybe they match up better. Maybe even without Jordan Travis. Who knows? Now I can make an assumption, but what I will say is they deserved the opportunity to win or lose the national championship on the field. That's my whole claim.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the good thing is we have the 12 team next year. So I'm really looking forward to that, seeing playoff games on campuses. That's going to be really fun. I thought about it from kind of another perspective as well, given that I live on the West Coast and my team is on the East Coast. With the 12 team playoff being a thing now, Clemson very well could play a team on the West Coast away in a playoff game. And I got excited about that because I thought about that as well. So I think that'll be pretty cool. Like going to go play at Washington or at Oregon. Something like that, or at Stanford.
So just that the first round games are
so
at higher ranking.
I think 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
5, 6, 7, 8 would be the home team. So that'll be dope. I mean,
that would be
like I said, there's only like 3 teams or 2 teams on the West Coast in reasonable distance from me that I would say is in that, because I wouldn't consider USC a place that I would travel to see a game, because that's just as
that's
far.
probably a cheap flight from Washington to
it is
LA.
But I mean, if that's the case, you could probably do Texas too, so same thing. But I mean,
it's not driving distance.
No, for sure. I think, well, let me get some of these comments really quick. So Michael said 13-0 and FSU sitting at the crib because of ESPN and SC Conference College Football Control.
Like I said, I agree. I think they deserve the opportunity.
Big Ten versus SEC in playoffs this year.
Yeah, that's if you're counting Texas as an SEC school and Washington as a Big Ten school. So
okay.
Looking at next year's model, the 2 Big Ten teams beat 2 what will be SEC schools.
The Pac-12 was the best competitive conference all season. They beat up each other. I agree. That's something we've been talking about all year long.
Since the beginning, since before the year even started.
And it's crazy because when you look now, like no SC team in the championship for a minute. Yeah, we were talking about that on FaceTime a little while ago. It's the first time that the SC doesn't have a champion or a team in the championship in a while. Yeah. But all year we were talking about the Pac-12 and kind of how loaded they are. But if you look at the standings now, it doesn't look like that because so many teams, lost. But you can't really look at the final standings because they ended up playing each other. I mean, because right now they only have 3 10-win teams. But at the end of the year,
fast, because I'm sitting here thinking about this. I know the first college football playoff was Ohio State versus Oregon. Was there any other championship that did not have an SEC school?
I think that was the last one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that was the last one.
So the first 4-team playoff and the last 4-team playoff are the only ones without a SEC school.
If I'm not mistaken. But before that, there was a lot of games that didn't have that had the SEC.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I was just kind of going through my mental Rolodex of schools and championships, and that's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I think this playoffs was, this semifinals, I guess, pair of games was probably the most entertaining we've gotten in a really long time.
Yeah.
Normally there's blowouts in the first round, or games that just aren't very competitive. I think both these games obviously came down to the wire. Literally came down to the final play in both games. He said Rolodex, not Rolex, Nico.
Did I say Rolex?
No, you said Rolodex.
Oh, yeah. What? You don't know what a Rolodex is? Oh, he's probably too young for a
No,
Rolodex.
he don't know about a lot of stuff. He didn't even know who Penix was heading into this game. So,
But we're talking. That's not even a football term. That's just
no, but I'm just saying in general. But now he's about to get in here talking crazy. I already know he is, because I know he's like 10 seconds delayed, so he's gonna say something crazy. But yeah, I think this was the most entertaining semifinal games. I'm just hoping, I'm praying that the championship game isn't a dud like it was last year. NIL is sinking the SEC conference. Hold on, talent sitting on the bench, not playing.
I don't think it's just the SEC. I think it's blue blood, big name schools, right? It's hurting Ohio State. It's hurt Clemson. It's hurt like
USC.
So you name any big name schools that are getting 20, 25, 5 and 4-star guys. Those guys don't want to sit around and wait anymore. So it just so happens that obviously a lot of the big schools getting recruits are from the SEC. But again, I think it's hurting everybody.
Yeah, and I think it'll end up helping in a couple of years. Hopefully it kind of continues this way, though. Like, we see the bigger name guys. We saw, obviously, I wouldn't even count really Travis Hunter, but we see Dylan Raiola go to Nebraska. We see guys like Dante Moore, who went to UCLA, obviously, originally, and then transferred. But even UCLA really isn't, a quarterback, school or a team that's going to compete for a national championship. And he was either the number 1 or number 2 quarterback coming out of high school. So I just hope that it continues that way.
But that's where, and I don't know as much about the build of Washington's team. I seen somebody put it in there. I think it was Guinea Pig Clips. Put Michigan has 1 5-star, Washington has 0. But what I think is bigger here is Michigan has not had massive exoduses in the portal. They've been able to keep a big portion of their team together. And like I said, I would assume the same for Washington. I don't know as much about the build of Washington. Michigan's team, by and large, they're key contributors. Now they have, I think their left tackle was a transfer in. But if you look at Quorum, JJ, Roman Wilson, if you look at a lot of their big players, those are guys that were recruited at Michigan that were three stars, but stayed until this point. So I think for a team, that may be one of the new mottos, right? Is I get some 3-stars, some guys that maybe need to develop a little bit. I give them to truly buy in on my program, staying at my program. And then if I can get them to stay there 3 years, then in that 3rd year, when everybody else has exoduses, when everybody else is playing the portal roulette, I can have something built. I can have some chemistry. I can have something built in my image or what it is I want. And like I said, I think that's what you're seeing, at least in Michigan. Like I said, I don't know as much about the build of Washington, but I would assume Washington's very similar as well. What do you
I kind of just want to pull this up. Sorry. I'm talking about this for a second.
I was going to say, you hung up on me?
No, it was an accident. But so I'm just kind of want to go over the depth chart. As I was thinking about it, these 2 teams may be the 2 most like veteran teams in college football.
Yeah.
Just because when you look at, so this is obviously Washington's roster. All of these guys are all 3 or 4 year guys. I don't think they have anybody as a starter who hasn't been in school for at least 3 years. Everybody on their roster could go to the draft if they wanted. Every starter, offensive and defensive wise, could go to the draft if they wanted to. And I feel like that's kind of rare. They're going to lose a lot. So I think this was kind of their window. Both teams, really. Michigan, obviously. Same situation.
And I can talk to Michigan's. I mean, Cornelius Johnson has been there forever. Roman
They're
Wilson
going to lose pretty much everybody.
JJ, Blake. We could say the same thing when we talk about Edwards. Big portion of that line has been there for, like I said, that team has been together for a long time. And I think Bama just put it in the chat. Like I said, that has been the key, right? It is the fact that they don't recruit a bunch of 5-stars. They go get Michigan guys that fit their scheme. And those guys stay. And like I said, for some teams, that may be the new mantra to take. I don't have to go get these 5-stars. I have to get guys who are willing to commit to the program, willing to commit to the long term, willing to stay. Because for Ohio State, like I said, we're going to lose something like 20, 25 kids in the transfer portal who are 4 or 5 stars. And I mean this only in terms of stars. We out recruit Michigan every year. I think we've out recruited Michigan every year for like the last 10, 20 years. But what they've been able to do and what we've had issues doing is they get those kids to stay, and we're losing kids every year.
Yeah, I would be very.
I would say, but I see Michael's. It's called development. It is right, but I also have to get a kid to stay, right? So if you have to be willing to be developed, if I put you on the bench because hey, there's a player better than you in front of you, and you leave, I didn't get really an opportunity to truly develop you.
Yeah, and I think with the NIL, we're not really going to see that kind of wait your turn development anymore. Guys are no longer going to get retained. We saw it with and there's going to be like there's going to be anomalies like Dante Moore going to Oregon to play behind Dillon Gabriel. That was really weird to me because why leave in the first place?
I think you will, and this is where I say I think you got to go get those 3-star guys. You got to go get those guys who aren't being recruited as heavy, and get them to buy into your program. And like I said, I think that is what Michigan has done well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Developing the guys who aren't, highly rated, makes more sense because you're not gonna. That's like Dylan Raiola going to Georgia. Buddy just said he's staying, so he probably feels like I can be that guy. I don't want to sit for a year, because Carson Beck just said he's going to stay. The NFL can wait. So it's kind of like to your point. The number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the country is not going to want to go sit behind somewhere when they know that there's money to be made at a smaller school.
And he's going to go. He's going to go to Nebraska and play.
Exactly. He's going to play. He's going to kind of boost his stock immediately. Dante Moore, uncle, is in his way.
I don't know who his uncle is. I don't know much about that story.
Michael,
what do you
I'm
mean
assuming
by that?
I'm assuming you're talking about Dylan Raiola, because I know his uncle was in talks a lot with Nebraska. If you're talking about his uncle,
yeah, well, his uncle is like a coach in Nebraska. I don't know much about, so maybe there's more to the story that we don't know, Michael. So what are you talking about there?
But yeah, very good, 2 very good semifinal games. We're obviously going to go live after the national championship. We're going to be doing a preview of the national championship. Those of you guys who are in here right now, what teams do you guys want to see us recap in the next week, week and a half? We have Colorado coming out in 2 days. So we already recapped USC. And then tomorrow we're going to be dropping the Washington versus Texas recap. And then we're going to be doing kind of the regular scheduled releases of our series for that program. But what other teams do you guys want to see us recap? Obviously Oregon. I made a list. I pretty much went based off of all the previews we did. But if there's other teams that you guys want to see,
especially if there's that team that maybe didn't get as much love and did much better or much worse than maybe people suspected, right? Like what may make sense is a team like Missouri, right?
Yeah, we didn't do a preview for them.
And let's just be honest, there is no way I would have had them as an 11-win team. So that's probably a team that's worth. And is there another team out there that we just may be missing, that we're not talking about, that we're not thinking about, that may have been much better or much worse than either we have already talked about or that we would have suspected?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Obviously, that is 50 to 60 videos or so, 45 videos of kind of consistency that we're going to be having, like we did in the previews, how we found all of you guys. So we're looking forward to doing that. We're heading into the off season. Here he says. So he says, no, Dante Moore's uncle has been shopping for deals and everything else for his development. He was a silent commit to Notre Dame and never came back to campus. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. But I don't think this is just going to be Dante Moore's uncle. I guarantee family members are doing this for big name recruits all over, right? I think this is now the nature of where we live. The question is, did Dante Moore go to Oregon? Because Oregon, again, with that Nike money, was able to somehow get him some form of bag to say, hey, you come back, you come here for a little bit, you play behind Gabriel, you learn, but during that time, you're going to get money. And then next year, you're the man with a big bag. I don't know. I think we're in the wild, wild west of college football. There's a lot of stuff a lot of conversations and things and money changing hands that we're all not going to be aware of, deals being made that we're not aware of. that are going to happen. And that's the nature of NIL and colleges essentially being able to pay for recruits. It's the world we live in now. And I think we all got to kind of adjust and get used to it, to include schools, right? These schools got to figure out how to kind of operate in that gray.
Yeah. But that is going to wrap it up for our live show tonight. Obviously, it's pretty late for everybody. Just kind of want to go online, give your guys our thoughts on both of these matchups. We are currently sitting at 958 subscribers. Those of you guys who are here, please do us a favor. Send the channel to one of your friends. Have them subscribe. Help us get to that 1,000 subscriber mark so we can give away that signed Heisman jersey.
It's been sitting. That mug been sitting for about 3 months.
Pretty soon it's going to be back here. Y'all keep playing. It's a nice jersey. But please, like I said, send it to someone. Share the channel so that we can try to get to this 1,000 subscriber mark. We are going to be posting the video tomorrow, the Texas versus Washington preview, to kind of go a little bit more in depth, give our perspective for not only you guys, but those people who didn't catch us live while we were live. And then we're going to be dropping the Colorado recap on Wednesday, and then we're going to keep going. I
didn't even say Rolex. I don't know why you keep saying that.
And then
you don't know what a Rolodex is? Neek's white guy?
That's crazy. And then we're going to keep going with the recaps until the preview for the national championship game. Thank you guys so much for kind of popping up on us really in the middle of the night after the game. We appreciate you guys.
1:30 here.
And we will see you guys tomorrow during the I keep saying Alabama, Texas. I'm still stuck on that matchup. You better get canceled. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the Texas Washington recap. And then throughout the week. See you guys later. Peace out.